Hey, it's Kinsey, your favorite garage girly. I'm coming to you live from the KFX Home Gym Lab. And today, next to me, I have a lateral raise rack attachment. You may be thinking how overrated these are. Yeah, they're overrated. Do you still want one? Yeah, you do. And today I'm here to tell you why you may want one if you kind of held off when they got super popular here about a month ago. I've had this for about 2 months, and so I kind of wanted to give my updated review on it. Not that I had a full review on this in the first place, but it has been featured in some of my videos, so I wanted to go ahead and break down why you may want this, even though it may seem overrated to you. The draw to any type of rack attachment is it's like having a extra machine in your gym without taking up the floor space. But for some reason, the lateral raise rack attachment specifically got super popular, and I think it's because who doesn't want giant shoulders, right? And we all know that using dumbbells isn't the best strength curve. So I'm here to answer some of your questions you may have about the strength curve on this particular rack attachment. And so let's dive into it. Let's see if you want one. All right, so the first movement we're going over is that lateral raise. I like to set this machine up so that the pivot point of the arms are right aligned with my shoulders. That way you just get the most bang for your buck with the resistance curve. So as you can see, when I hit parallel at the top, I'm feeling 100% of that weight. And it does slowly decrease a little bit towards the bottom, but it's actually not too bad. I'll cover the percentages of the weight felt here later in the video. Now I'm setting up my bands. This is a way to just have a different resistance curve. I get the gnarliest shoulder pump with setting the bands up this way. It's super easy. I just take a hitch pin and connect the bands to the back. There's a better angle of that right here. So now on the way down, I'm really having to resist that band pulling me back down. It really just does change the resistance profile, and there's many things you can do with this rack attachment to do that. You can even hook it up to your cables. All right, I wanted to showcase some chest flies on here, but before I do that, I wanted everyone to notice how the arms cross with dumbbell resistance, right? You're coming down here and you come to your sides, or I mean, obviously you can have them out here, but you lose a lot of that tension here because these arms do cross over the way that they are. I do still feel like quite a bit of resistance right here. And so that's something to note. I know a lot of people are worried about that, but yeah, there is a really good amount of resistance right here. I would say at the top, obviously, you're feeling 100% of the weight. I would say right about here, you're at 80, and then through the rest of the movement, 60, 40. So you still feel a good amount of the weight, whereas dumbbells, I feel like you lose like almost all of it right here. Hopefully, the percentages help kind of give you an idea of how much resistance you will be feeling in the lateral raise in the bottom of the movement. If you have the bands on, obviously that changes it completely. The bands add an awesome tension on the way down. So for the chest fly, you want to go ahead and adjust this on the sundial to the first hole on both sides. Don't let this arm hit you in the face. I have been hit in the face before. Just hinge over at the waist, and I'm getting a really good stretch right here, and then a really good squeeze. I will say the chest flies don't feel as good as the lateral raises. They do give a pretty good squeeze right here. So not so much you would want it. You'd want to feel a lot of that of the weight in the stretch, but you don't. Here's about 40% of the weight. And then as you come down, that's when you're feeling the 100. So you get a really good squeeze in the pecs. You just don't get a really good stretch, if that makes sense. One of the movements that really surprised me on this is actually a front raise, which kind of seems silly. I just step out in front, and then with the front raise, because if you stand out here, you really feel 100% of the weight the whole time, just the way you position yourself. Because you can bring this arm up, and then you're still feeling the weight, still feeling the weight, still feeling the weight, all the way up until right here. So the front raises on this are actually one of my favorite movements. It's kind of funny. I get such a good pump from the front raises. It just makes it even more worth it to have this rack attachment for sure. So the only thing I did to make this lateral raise rack attachment better is when it first came, there was about half an inch on either side of this link. And all I did was sink that link down further, and that lifted the arms at a little bit of a different angle. And all that does is create a little bit more tension at the bottom of the lift, which makes it a little bit better than the resistance I felt with dumbbells. Another modification that I would love to be able to do on this is what you can if you have anyone that you know that can machine it for you. But I wish this had a full sundial, kind of like the bells of steel. That way you could really choose what your resistance curve is going to be. Other than that, this thing has been really awesome, especially with the use of bands. It really does change the movement. There's a lot more resistance on the way up, and obviously the band resistance is pulling you back down, which you can't get with a dumbbell. Let's go over the quality of this rack attachment. I did order this off Temu. I know Michelob now sells it. I haven't been able to find it on Temu for a little while, which sucks because it was like $160. And I believe Michelob sells it for $300. Not sure I would pay $300 for this, but if there's ever a sale, then I would definitely pick it up. The quality is, I would give it a 7 out of 10. There was no dings or scrapes when it came in the package. It was very well packaged, actually. So if you see any like dings on it, it's probably just from me using it. The links and everything like that are a pretty decent quality. They don't feel plasticky or cheap. The handles on this are just, which you'll see here in a second, they're kind of like this thin foam slash rubber, and they work well. I think they will hold up. Something I haven't gone over yet is just taking this thing on and off the rack. It's actually really not that inconvenient. There's just these two, there's a little twist knob on the bottom and a wing nut on top. Once you take both off, I like that the attachment doesn't just automatically fall off the upright. It gives you time to walk up to the front and take it off the upright. It's really not that heavy and awkward. And then I just store it on a safety spotter arm sticking off the side of my rack. My final thoughts on this rack attachment is you should definitely pick one up, especially if you can find one on sale. I think with rack attachments, as long as they're easy to take on and off the rack and you can find a storage solution for them, it's worth it because changing up the variation of a certain exercise is always fun in the home gym. It just gives the home gym a little bit more of a commercial feel. I think the quality of this is going to hold up. I use it a couple times a week. My clients love it. And, like I said, it's holding up. So definitely worth the money, in my opinion. Obviously, there isn't a huge, insane difference between using this and dumbbells, but like I said, a different variation just makes it fun, and being creative with bands and cables and using a chest supported rack attachment as well with it just changes the movement and makes it fun.